Welcome to Rock Solid, the Round Rock Business Leaders Podcast. Join your host, Bryan Eisenberg, as he explores the journeys of entrepreneurs and companies across Round Rock, Texas. From startups and nonprofits to large organizations, each guest shares their passion for doing business in this thriving community. Let's dive in.
Hi, it's Bryan Eisenberg, and we're here at Rock Solid, and I am with the just crowned winner of the Round Rock Chamber's Startup Day Pitch Competition, Joe Fischer from Playmaker Recruiting. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. It's been awesome, this whole process, both with the Chamber and yourself. Excited to be here, Bryan, and excited to share a little more about what we do.
Yeah, I want to dive into a little bit of the experience, right? Because obviously, people will hear this maybe next year before the pitch competition, and I kind of want to run back. How'd you hear about the pitch competition? What made you decide to enter? What happened when you got chosen as a finalist?
Yeah, I had heard about this a couple of years ago. Actually, this was not my first time applying. So to anyone who has applied and is like, am I the right fit? What's wrong? Believe me, every year the crop is a little different. So I think this is my second time, possibly third. Sometimes they blend together a little bit. To applying, and I was so excited when I got the next set, told I was a finalist. We put a good pitch deck together. It's hard when they tell you, hey, this is going to be 5 minutes, so make sure you've got it really narrowed down. And we heard back, had some awesome feedback from Adriana, who ran the program over there, and kind of had 2 weeks heads up. So, hey, get ready. This is the day. Practice. You got 5 minutes. It's going to be a hard stop. And then show up at the day. They give us a great tour of the area. Texas State hosted. Certainly not my first time in a Texas State auditorium, which was awesome to be back. And then had the chance to get back and pitch, and kind of what they recorded is what happened. I'm very proud. Everything went pretty smoothly, I think. At least it must have if I won, I guess. So.
That's probably a good sign.
I would think it went well.
I'm curious. We'll come back to a little bit of the competition, but I'm curious, as an observer of the competition, right? Because you saw all the other people competing against you. Who had you most nervous?
Ooh, I mean, it's tough
because there were a lot of great pitches.
There's a lot of really good pitches. The first two were tough. You went from a amazing storyteller to a PhD in nanotechnology. So with those first two, I'm like, oh, okay, let's get ready.
And I'm talking about grunting football players.
Yeah, it's like, all right, let's make sure we got to come in, talk about being an underdog. Speaking of, how the pitch went, I think it was a awesome chance to see just the different way people tell their stories.
Yeah.
And with such a wide variety of businesses, it's always fascinating to meet people in those organizations, get to meet the other pitchers beforehand, and we're all kind of sizing each other up a little bit, but of course all in a friendly way. And I think there was certainly a couple people, those first two just came out swinging so hard that I thought, okay, make sure we're ready, kind of take a deep breath. The next two who came up also did pretty well, but I think in some ways, by being a little towards the end, you get maybe a little bit of that second wind.
Yep.
And I, came out there swinging, and it worked out. But there were certainly those first two put me on my toes.
They were very, very impressive. I have to admit. Yeah. There was also a great panel of judges who asked a lot of good questions. So besides the pitch and getting that ready, and we'll kind of dive into a little bit about what you do in a moment. But what do you think about the questions the judges asked you?
They were great questions. I think one thing they asked very specifically, because with a system like ours, the question is, with a platform, with both sides, how do you get over that platform issue of both sides, getting them to feed one another? And I've certainly had that, been grilled before on that, so I was luckily prepared for it. But asking some really good detailed questions. And it was also great to see the judges clearly had some broad experience, because they were asking questions that were also sports specific. They understood the struggles that different people have been through. And ironically enough, we found out later one of the judges had been the gentleman who founded 3 Day Startup. And I had pitched originally this idea in 2016 on a weekend at McCoy College at Texas State at a 3-day startup. I didn't get picked as a finalist to work over the weekend, but I remember meeting him there and kind of then
That's
beginning
so cool.
to stew on it. And they gave me a lot of great questions to begin saying, these are the answers you're going to need, and to know what that value proposition is. So it was just kind of an interesting full circle moment there. And he hadn't realized yet, because back then the name was, I think I came up with like a day before the competition, like Ultimate Recruiter, and like drew a little UR.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, let's throw something together. We've come a long way since then. But it was just kind of a really interesting opportunity, a kind of full circle moment.
Rock Solid is produced and recorded at Round Rock Studio. Located right here in Round Rock, our state-of-the-art studio is built for podcasters and creatives alike. We offer multiple professionally designed podcast sets, top-notch recording gear, and a full photography studio ready for any project. Whether you're launching a new podcast or upgrading your existing one, we can help with multi-camera recording, editing, and everything you need for success. Record with us at Round Rock Studio, your local podcasting partner.
So let's dive back in. Like, how did this get started? Why did you decide, there's tons of recruiting tools out there, I'm going to do something different? What was that spark?
It started really in my high school years. I would not say I was the most successful athlete. I was certainly small. I'm 6'2" now, but I was behind all of my classmates. So I remember being in 7th grade on a kick return block, getting thrown back 6 feet as someone ran to block me and I go flying, and realizing, okay, I'm going to have to find other ways to go about this. And went through that process, tried to get better, just for the fact that it started a little late. And a lot of my teammates at Pflugerville High School, which is where I went, we had a lot of rough years. And so it was from that less people came by, because unless you're winning a lot of games, sometimes
college
the attention,
coaches are not going to show up. Yeah,
they're going to look at you and say, okay, if you've barely won 3 games the last 2 years, who on that team can I trust to help me win? That idea of like, well, winners win, and that's the only way it works.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing being, our coach staff did their best, but their network wasn't massive. And you don't know when you send something out if somebody's seen it. You don't know the traction you might have at a different level, whether it's a D1 school or D2 or NAIA. There's so many options out there, but at a smaller school, well, mid-sized school at the time at Pflugerville, trying to stand out was hard, because when they come to visit Austin, they're not stopping by up there. They're going by
They can
West
barely
Lake.
even spell it. So yeah,
they're at Westlake and Lake Travis, which makes sense. You see a lot of talent coming through there, but they don't necessarily go by East Side or LBJ or Pflugerville unless they've had a great season. And then all of a sudden opportunities open up. And so it was frustrating to see that people that were working as hard, if not harder, and had talent, just not as much help, weren't getting a chance to get seen and at least have a chance to get a look and get invited and prove that they belonged. And that's really the start of it. And then my siblings struggled through the same thing, though in a club sport, you saw the money side of it, which is club organizations. Not only are they incredibly expensive just to be in, every tournament, all the travel, going states away to these showcase tournaments with the hopes that the right person sees you at the right moment. It's tough. Especially if you've flown or driven 12 hours, your legs are going to be tired. It's not, it takes advantage of a lot of parents and families who want the best for their kids. And how many people then don't have access to that because they don't have the money?
Correct.
And a lot of that's only exploded more as NCAA and college sports has grown. There's more camps and more things popping up, taking advantage of that and taking advantage of selling someone a dream and not just giving them access.
And the NIL deals that are coming about and the JUCO eligibility, everything's kind of just changing.
The transfer portal means that a high school kid is not just competing with people his age. He's competing with someone who's been playing for 4 years. Who's been at 3 different D1 programs that is a sure bet, which now means how are they going to try and stand out? And then they're expected to go to a smaller program, but there's fewer smaller programs, and they don't have the budget to scout everyone across the country, so you better hope you're near one of them and in their pipeline to get a chance. And that's just, the whole system has not been prepared for what ended up happening with all the lawsuits in the NCAA, and there's only more coming. There's another, I believe, I think a player's fighting to say the NCAA can't limit their eligibility. You want to talk about chaos, having a 28-year-old college player beating out an 18-year-old kid trying to go into college. It's a whole new world. Now, hopefully, I think rules will come, but it's never quite fast enough at the speed of change that we're seeing in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking football. My son was in baseball. I've definitely experienced the same thing. It was, through social media and networks that got him playing, college baseball. It's definitely a challenge to get seen, especially, he didn't make his high school team, right? So it was a little bit harder, but he had to prove himself otherwise. Okay, so you realize there's this big problem if you're a family member who's got an aspiring athlete, wants to play college baseball, football, the volleyball, basketball, whatever it is. So they've got a problem, but you didn't just solve it for the players and the families. You looked at it as a bigger picture, right? So because you've got tools both now for the high school coach, the college coach. So how did this vision for all of this come together? A
lot of that came back, going back to 2016 after that 3-day startup, and then having the chance to sit down with GAs and coaches both at Texas State, other colleges, then local high schools, because when you're in the program, you only hear so much from the head coach, and when you're finally outside it, you hear a little more of the nitty-gritty.
Right. And they've got incredibly difficult jobs. I mean, whether you're in high school or in college, I know plenty of college coaches and assistant coaches, and they are putting in crazy amount of hours. Unless you're one of the big football coaches, you are getting paid barely minimum wage sometimes for all the work you're doing.
Exactly. And so you can understand when they're pushed, there's no off season for them. You say that. I think there's maybe a 2-week window in July that they actually all decided, hey guys, we have to take a break.
Yeah, they go to their annual convention
exactly.
and all hang out
and they
together.
all hang out and they get some drinks together and be like, all right, here we go again, guys. It's coming and we got to be ready for it.
Yep.
And so many of them work so many hours. And at the high school level, you're also a teacher because that's the requirement in the state of Texas. Every state's a little different, but you have that. Your assistants, you constantly have budget cuts, so you're either unable to hire somebody or...
Maybe you've got a great PTA who can help a little bit.
You hope. And certainly those booster programs do a lot to fill those gaps as your budget shrinks.
Yep.
But it's not like they're giving you a lot to add to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of those parents then, of course, get very involved. So you're on calls with them asking... hey, yes, your kid is going to get the playing time that he earns, and we're going to do what we can. It's a tremendous lift on their part. And so when we tried to solve it for everyone, unfortunately, also on the college side, they want to know about the kid, but that you can't trust a parent to give you the full straight answer. And the player, when you meet them, you're going to get a feel for it, but there's rules on when you can talk to them.
Correct.
So they really want to speak to a coach, someone who's there with them in practice and knows how they practice, who's there,
their work ethic,
knows about their grades and how much they have to get on them about it, knows about how, yes, they made this big play, that was awesome, but then when he got pulled out the next one, he threw a bit of a tantrum about it. And coaches want to know about that, but they also want to know about the kid who's maybe not quite as flashy on film, but is
just rock solid.
Rock solid. And the coach
no pun intended.
Yes, exactly. And can say, hey, yes, I know he's not 6'2". He may be 5'10", but he's the first one there on every play. He never complains. He puts in the extra hours. Give him a shot. He's going to make a difference for you. And if you're a big D1 school, you maybe look at him as like, I can't throw him into SEC. He might, that's another story. But if you're talking about a D2 school or NAIA where he can still get a full ride scholarship.
Yep.
How do you make sure those people get seen? And you want to support the coach who's going to enable the player to also drive that process forward because everyone has to be working on it. It can't just be the player and it can't just be the coach because you have to have the buy-in from everyone. And recruiters then get what they really want, which is a opinion that they can trust, information and data they can trust, something that isn't just a Twitter page that you're not sure if it even belongs to the person who's saying they are who they are.
Yep.
And everyone actually meets in the middle versus kind of ships passing each other in the night, not meeting where they want to meet and all having an honest conversation.
Now, there's a lot of solutions in the space that, coaches kind of piece together. I mean, we've talked about, huddle, field level. I mean, there's so many besides Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. Why did you know, or how did you know that you could develop a solution that could solve a lot of the issues and from even what I've seen on your website, save coaches hours of their time, which is like, that's their most precious commodity. It's all of our most precious commodity.
We bridge that gap specifically between what we call like those team management tools, like a huddle, and what you call those recruiting platforms. Things like NCSA that will charge, to build that out and charge the player a lot for that. Or things like field level or things like virtual combine that are purely recruiting. That's great, but it's extra work for a coach. And the reason why you don't see those everywhere is there's a lot of coaches that believe, hey, I've got a system and I send my Excel sheet out to the people I send it out to, and we get the exposure we think we need. But all of that takes extra work. So how do you make sure you give them hours back by saying, hey, you use these other tools? We're going to bridge that gap so you're never entering a piece of data twice. There's never, I got to update this. We just did strength and conditioning. We did our recordings. We have the tools for them to manage all of that. So it's not just on a million spreadsheets or Google Drive, and you don't have someone messing with it. And they don't
need to worry about VLOOKUPs anymore.
Nope. It's all right there. And
no pivot tables.
No pivot tables, no VLOOKUP, no macros to sync to another sheet and hope someone doesn't break it. And it all is in one place. It's an operating system meant to help them run their program, along with giving them the exposure and help to support the recruiting journey. So it means it's not just extra work. It's taking work, syncing the data, and then you can spend time. Hey, I sent this extra email out. They looked at it. I heard from them. You should make sure you fill out, a little extra information. And we also do things like the questionnaires that the players add to their profile. So instead of going to 20 different D3 programs, filling out the same information every time, all of that's already packaged, kind of like the Common App, right? We have it for college admissions. Why not on the other side with athletes that have all the same information, and then that coach is going to ask specific things. If you're Stanford, one of the people we work with, they have a very specific admission requirements, and they also need, really high level players. So how do we make sure we can do all of that? And then they can ask specific informations about the character and get to substantive conversations versus just calling a coach saying, hey, can you send your prospect list? And then I'll review it. And then I've got to ask a bunch of information about, okay, what's his family? Who is it? Who's helping him make the decision? It's already there. So you can get to real conversations, and everyone's saving time.
So you won the pitch competition, right? You got this prize money. You're going to go out there. You're going to hopefully speak to more coaches. What has been the biggest obstacle so far? Because I know you've had some success with coaches, but what's been the biggest obstacle in terms of reaching these coaches, both at the high school and then at the college level? Let's kind of each of those.
As many coaches as there are, it's a very close-knit network.
Yes.
And so oftentimes they're going to take recommendations immediately based on other people's experiences, even if it's not the best product. The hard part is getting in and building the trust within the network, and then everything really opens up for you. A big part of that is getting in front of them at associations and letting them see with zero risk what you can do for them. But coaches are also oftentimes, especially if they've been at a program for a while, resistant to any change. And technology, especially for old school coaches, is usually a bit of a dirty word. Or if you start talking about analytics, they're like, well, we don't, we don't do that. We're about teaching guys. I'm on the field. I'll get the vibe and I'm going to call it, sort of a Dan Campbell-esque approach of like, we're going for it on fourth down because I feel it. There's a place for that. And we know that's where a coach really makes a lot of impact also in people's lives, on how they teach them, how they approach these different conflicts. A lot of players, they're teenagers, they're going through a lot. It's huge in building character, and we want to keep that. So let me help you not fill out a bunch of spreadsheets so you can engage with your players and your other coaches so you can raise them up, and they're going to help everyone in the program. It's just breaking into that and building awareness. that's also a big part of what we're trying to do. Say, hey, we're out here. Give us a shot. Usually anyone who sees what we do loves it. It's just getting in front of them and taking that phone call and letting us spend 15 minutes to show them what we can do.
Okay, so now that you've won, what's the plan for this coming year? Like, how are you going to get out there in front of all these coaches? I mean, I know you're doing football now. You're looking at other sports as well.
Yeah, we want to have baseball, softball, and then men's and women's basketball. So obviously crossing that Title IX barrier is huge, especially for programs that don't have football. A lot of those other sports then are their marquee sport. And with AAU and the club scene, it's even more fragmented sometimes in getting that information. And I think we can do a lot to help in those spaces. The other big thing is making presence at Texas High School Coaches Association this summer. Always awesome to be there. We've gone there a couple years in a row, hoping to make a bigger splash this year and really bring more people to the table. And then we want to make sure, hopefully we'll have some big partnerships announced here soon, especially at the junior college level when we talk about making sure they get exposure also to the transfer portal, which is the NCAA has a half measure of, but when all it says is a name and a school, that doesn't really provide information. And it means a lot more time gets sunk into it and means you take away time from high school recruiting.
So kind of sum everything up. If I'm a parent or a player and I want to take advantage of Playmaker Recruiting, what's the first thing I need to do?
You go to the website, you fill out, claim your profile. We do a quick check to verify that you are who you are. We always recommend they use an EDU email, but it's not required.
Okay.
And then we're able to sync. You'll see all the information we've already pulled together for you. You're able to add to it and you're ready to go. Takes 5 minutes. You have your questionnaire ready. You're ready to share it wherever. Anywhere you share it, it's free for that school to look at it. It's not like we're gatekeeping to say, well, now we're going to add extra barriers. It's free. All they have to do is make sure it's a login, because we always make sure it's a coach seeing your information, not some third party or an agent. We want to make sure it's between coaches, players, and college programs. No extra noise in there. And you can see when someone looks at it, understand how many times they looked at you, and send that follow-up email at the right time saying, oh, by the way, I'm going to this tournament next week in North Carolina. If you're going, I saw you're going to attend. Here's my schedule. And you can really hit at the right time, striking while the iron's hot, which is creating opportunity and in some ways manufacturing your own luck to make things happen.
And it costs nothing for the players?
Never.
Okay.
Never. We never cost a dime to the player, their families, because we want to make sure it's accessible to everyone, not just those with the resources to do so.
Okay. And now if we're talking to the high school coach, what do they got to do?
They reach out, same thing, a form, ask for a demo. We'll spend 15 minutes showing them how it'll integrate with what they already have, whether that's Huddle, whether that's field level, whether they're using answers to add information for their video, and show them the analytics it can do, the strength and conditioning tools, everything that happens outside of season as well, and how we can help them all year, and show then that prospect list, which is, by the way, here's some of the coaches have already looked at some of your players if you didn't know, and here's how you can increase that even more. So when that parent comes in and says, what are you doing for me lately? You can say, hey, your kid's gotten looks from 6 different D2s. He keeps saying D1 or bust. He should consider talking to these people. You talk to them too, and it's a start. Because one offer usually begets another.
Correct.
In a lot of ways, it's like there's 2 or 3 kids at the front of the class that did their homework, and everyone else finds out they forgot to do it and starts copying each other's. In a lot of ways, that's how it
just
works.
builds confidence from a college coach, and I've spoken to a lot of college coaches about this. Once they know somebody's got an offer from a college coach, they know the college coach has probably done some of their homework, and they're willing to kind of leverage that a little bit. Yeah,
especially depending on the college. There's a lot that really do a great job doing their homework, and so a lot of programs get to ride on that a little bit because there's a lot of guys get hired then from those programs to come help them at whether it's an Ohio State or Alabama to find those guys because they know they can come in a little later and probably steal the prospect, whereas being early means that you at least have the best relationship with them. There's a whole other game when it comes to getting a commitment. There's a whole other world, especially in the world of NIL. It's crazy.
And then the college coaches, same as the high school coaches, contact you, see a demo, and you show them how you.
we already have 700,000, placeholder profiles ready to go. So
Wow.
it's not like they're waiting for extra information. They're all going to have at least base information. They may not have a questionnaire yet until that player adds it, but we have everything else, whether that's how many yards, what their program was, difficulty of schedule, things that also show how much they contributed to the team in all these different areas, to give context on the player, not just he's 6'2", 200 pounds. He went to this camp and ran a 4.5, which, I mean, that's fast for an 18-year-old. They can also see, what did he do on the field and what is the context? And did they have a tough schedule and so his numbers aren't quite as high? That means a lot. That means to say, compared to this player who put up crazy numbers and played a cupcake schedule and walked their way through the playoffs, that, someone who saw some adversity and still performed, that starts meaning a lot more. And so we want to make sure they feel confident in taking that chance on maybe an underdog, because they see the full story and realize they're not an underdog. Oh, this is Cam Ward. It's not someone else. Get one chance is all it takes. And in the transfer, world, just getting your foot in the door opens up a million possibilities.
So to kind of wrap up, if there's an underdog startup that wants to pitch next year, what's your advice to them?
The story says it all, and understanding why you're doing what you're doing is the biggest part of that. And that's what we got to really in our pitch, is the spirit behind why are we doing this? What do we want to see? We want to see more underdog stories. So the fact that it's almost like they weren't underdogs, and making sure everyone has access to that opportunity, and talking about your story and why you do it is as important as how. And especially when you have 5 minutes like we did this year, that's going to be what drives it forward. That's going to be what brings people to your company and drives your success. The how, in a lot of ways, is an afterthought, because there's a lot of ways to get something done. And if you can tell that story and connect with people, that's going to carry you a long way.
As I like to say, we've got to even move beyond storytelling to story selling.
Yeah.
Joe, if they want to reach out to you or you find your website, where would they do that?
They'll find us at playmakerrecruiting.com. They can also find us on social media, linked to all of those at Playmaker Recruiting or Playmaker Recruit on X or Twitter. And by all means, we're always trying to highlight other players that are there. They can connect or DM us on any of those if they're trying to find out what else we can do. We're always active there. But our website is definitely the fastest way to make sure you get a hold of us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited.